tasya gyananjana shalakaya chakshurunlitam dina tasmai shri gurave namaha. Reading from chapter 2 of the Brihat Bhagavatamrita, part 2 of Sanatan Goswami's masterpiece work. This chapter is called Jnana, or knowledge. We've traveled through the Tapalok to Mahalok. Now, once four-headed Brahma came to Tapalok, riding on his swan. He was on his way to Pushkar Dweep to grace his devotees with a visit. Gopakumar is experiencing all of this as he progresses in his spiritual journey. That venerable personage, endowed with supreme opulence, was reverentially worshipped by Sanaka and his brothers. Feeling humble, they bowed down to him in pure devotion. He increased the good fortune of the Kumaras by his blessings and affectionately smelled their heads. Then, after giving them some good instructions, he quickly went off to the Dweep he was on his way to visit. So Brahma is actually the father of the four Kumaras. So he is father, but also guru. And so they were very excited to see him. Of course, with all reverence, they paid obeisances, and Brahmaji gave them his blessings, and then fatherly affection, he proceeded to smell their heads like a loving father. He gave them then some good instructions so that they could increase their devotion to the Lord. When I asked the Kumars to explain who he was, they laughed and said, "Dear coward boy, even after reaching this planet, you still do not know who this person is?" That was Brahma, the Lord of all lords of the living beings. He is our Father and the Creator of the universe. Self-born, he sits on the highest seat of authority. He maintains and guides this created world. His planet, called Satyalok, stands above all others. It is achieved by persons who have done their prescribed duties purely for 100 lifetimes. Those who engage in the Varnashram system can go to the Brahmaloka if they perform their duties properly for 100 lifetimes. That's the benediction that comes. That above all the other earthly realms is the Brahmalok, where Brahma himself is seated, and he is the creator of this universe. Within Satyaloka is a Vaikuntha planet where the thousand-headed divine Lord of the universe is always present, as the Mahapurusha. Although said to be the son of the Mahapurusha, Brahma is also considered non-different from him. In our opinion, the one absolute truth assumes both these forms as a pastime. Of course, Brahma is an empowered incarnation. He was empowered to create. His meditation is always on that Mahapurusha who is Lord Vishnu lying upon the milk ocean. There in his meditation, he receives instructions from the Mahapurusha how to engage in the proper management and development of this universe. Shri Gopakumar said, hearing this, I wanted to go to that planet and see the Mahapurusha. Seated on Tapaloka, I chanted my mantra and focused my mind in samadhi. After a moment, I opened my eyes to find that I had reached Brahmaloka. The power of meditation in those realms is that simply by meditating upon the object of your meditation, you can go there. So he was simply meditating on the Mahapurusha, and deeply in his meditation, he observed himself and thought of that Mahapurusha, and as soon as he opened his eyes, he found that he was actually in Brahmaloka. He was transferred from the Tapalok to the Brahmalok. And before me was the blessed Lord of the universe. He was huge, with thousands of divine arms, heads, and feet. He resembled a dark-blue cloud and was richly adorned with suitable ornaments. He was an ocean of brilliant effulgence. His navel was beautiful like a lotus. Lying on the bed of Ananta Shesh, He enchanted everyone's eyes and mind. So he is the actual creator of the universe, because ultimately everything manifests from him, even Brahma. So it is only through his empowerment does Brahma get the opportunity to create this universe, and under his guidance is everything going on. So Brahma, we know at the beginning of the Bhagavatam, it describes how Brahma himself was born in the world of darkness. He didn't know what direction to turn, what he was supposed to do, what his purpose was, until he heard a divine sound, tapa, tapa. And there he engaged himself then in deep meditation. According to Bhaktivinoda Thakur's explanation in the Brahma Samhita, it was that divine Gopal mantra also that Gopakumar received and that we received through our Diksha initiation, that is that same power by which Brahma was able to create and ultimately see Govinda. Govinda Madhi Prusham Tamaham Bhajami. Brahma prays like that. Not only does he worship the Mahapurusha, but he also understands Govindam, Adi Purusham. It is Govinda who is the Adi Purusha. He may be called here the Lord Mahavishnu lying on Shesh as the Mahapurusha, but his existence also depends on another, and that is Krishna, Govinda, Adi Purusham. Govindam Adi Purusham. He is the Adi, the original Purusham, from whom everything else comes. The Mahapurusha who creates this universe, the Brahma, the universe, all is coming from that Supreme Lord, Govindam. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. This is the final conclusion of Brahma after he perfects himself in his meditation. So, Gopakumar sees the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, there with Mahapurusha, Lord Vishnu, massaging his feet. He glanced at Garuda. Garuda was also there, who stood before him with joined palms. Lord Brahma worshipped the Lord with opulent offerings, and in turn the Lord amply gratified him. Lord Mahapurusha was also attentive to Sri Narada's displays of loving devotion. It is a place of all the great devotees who are engaged directly in the Lord's service, Lord Vishnu's service. Lakshmi is there, Garuda is there, Narada is there, Brahma is there, all serving the Lord for his satisfaction. The resplendent Lord, Mahapurusha, within his own most excellent residence, instructed Brahma, who sat on the lotus beside him. The Lord patiently explained to Brahma, step by step, the greatest of mysteries and the essential truth of the revealed scriptures, the path of devotion to him. Hearing these matters, four-headed Brahma, overwhelmed by a vast treasure of transcendental joy, quietly repeated and agreed with each point he was taught, and then offered his respects again and again at the feet of the Lord. Lakshmi saw that by the force of ecstasy I had fallen into a swoon. No, naturally, Gopakumar fell into a swoon. He's a newcomer there. He opens up his eyes. There he is, and all this is going on. And he naturally falls into an ecstatic swoon. So Lakshmi Devi noticed that. So she coddled me like her own son to restore me to consciousness, and then brought me to the side of her husband. Gazing at the Supreme Lord and repeatedly bowing down before him, I told my mind, oh, today you have attained the ultimate fulfillment of all your desires. Now be steady and joyful. This abode, free from all sorrow and fear and pain, is worshipped by the entire world. It is filled with the greatest of opulences and bliss. Dear brother, this planet shines forth with as much perfection as the Lord of the universe himself. It displays the final limit of complete excellence. You have felt the affection of Lakshmi. Now see her, Lord, with your own two eyes. Give up your thoughts of going away from here. Give up your grieving over cow pastures in Braj and in Mathura. feel the bliss of this place where you are residing. If you want to be pampered like Brahma by the Lord of the universe, that also you can achieve by the power of the mantra taught to you by that great soul, your Gurudev, like that. He gave you this mantra, so powerful. This mantra is actually handed down in our disciplic succession from Brahma. So that same mantra that Gopakumara is chanting, we're also chanting. We received it as it came down through the great lineage of Mahaprabhu and like that, and through Srila Prabhupada. So we're receiving that same mantra, which is so powerful. We should not neglect the importance of the mantra that we have received through Diksha, the power of that mantra, and therefore we should honor it regularly by chanting it regularly. That is our duty. So anything can be achieved, even to become pampered like Brahma. Here it is described that Brahma is pampered like the sun, Mahavishnu's son, and so you can also achieve that if you so desire. The Supreme Lord turned to his pastime of sleep. That is called Yoga Nidra. The Lord enters also into divine sleep. And Brahma, sitting on the universal lotus, born of the Lord's navel, realized what he had to do to recreate the universe, and so came outside to do his work. I lived there happily for some time, seeing the very wonderful form of the Lord, observing the universe within the lotus that was grown from his navel, and witnessed the waves of love flowing over Brahma as he heard the confidential instructions of the Lord. During the dark of the night, when the three worlds were totally destroyed and the universe became a single ocean, that personality of Godhead lies comfortably on his bed of Sheshnag, together with Brahma. The residents of Janaloka and the other higher planets praise that personality of Godhead with choice words. I saw these fascinating events by the powerful influence of that Brahmalok. When the Lord sometimes went elsewhere, he would disappear. Of course, at that time I would become unhappy, but that painful feeling would be cut to the root as soon as he returned. After I had spent some days in this way, early one morning, out of curiosity, Brahma touched a mass of foam. He was curious, what is this foam coming up? He touched it, and it turned into a demon. Terrified of him, Brahma fled. The personality of God had killed the demon, but Brahma, overcome by fear, did not come back. So the Lord assigned me to the post. This is the way of the pastimes of the Lord and his devotee. So many extraordinary things can take place. So here, the devotee Gopakumar in this instance had desired that he could become a Brahma. So the Lord made arrangements. Okay, let this Brahma flee for a little bit out of fear. The demon manifest out of foam. The Brahma fled. Okay, the post is open. Gopakumar, you take it. So he became the Brahma. Arranging for the Almighty Lord to be worshipped in all directions with great sacrifices, I flooded the universe with joy. So the topmost, of course, purpose of Brahma is not only to fill the universe with all its varieties, but it's to increase the devotion. Arranged for the increase of devotion by the living beings within this universe. He has created it, so naturally he has to see to the highest benefit of mankind. So Gopakumar took on that responsibility. He saw that sacrifices were being performed all over the universe. Mahayagna says here, great sacrifices for the pleasure of Lord, and in this way, increasing the devotion of everyone. Filling the universe, he says, with joy. And it's a fact. Just like Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he has given us the Mahajagna of Sankirtan. And we see wherever it is performed, that place becomes joyful. So it is the nature of devotional service and the Jagna performed for the purpose of pleasing the Lord. Everyone who's engaged becomes joyful. So wherever the Nam Sankirtan, which is the Jagna for this age, is performed, and as was introduced by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and spread throughout the world by Srila Prabhupada and then his disciples, we see now that everywhere you go where their devotees are gathered, it's a joyful experience. And anyone who's had the opportunity to be pulled into that joy, that joyful experience, also feels that. And that's the way of spreading Krishna consciousness. Let them feel the joy. So let them hear the holy name. Let them taste the prasadam of the Lord. Let them see the beautiful forms of the Lord. Give the opportunity to all people. Let them hear about the glories of the Lord through Srila Prabhupada's books and like that. And then the whole world becomes joyful. Actually, that was Prabhupada's desire, that the whole world become joyful. And that's the actual desire of the devotee. And Gopakumar had that same desire. Let the whole world become joyful by worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Like that. So even though I was encumbered with the post of the Supreme Authority in the universe, and even though I was glorified in various ways by the Maharishis, the Brahma Rishis, the personified Vedas, the Agamas, the Puranas, the Itihasya, sacrifices and pilgrimage sites, and even though I was surrounded by great sources of delight, I did not give up my natural simplicity. So Gopakumar is by nature simple. He is a cowherd boy, and he identifies that as that, a cowherd boy of Govardhan. That's who he is. He may take on different responsibilities at different times, but the core of his being never changes. And it's true that the core of our true nature never changes. We exist. I was going to say created, but that's a word. Created can mean that I came into being at a certain time. But we exist. Although we exist because of the Lord, we don't exactly use the word created because it gives the connotation that I at some point I wasn't and then I became, but I always am. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, never was there a time when I did not exist nor you, because everything that exists in Krishna always existed, and we are part of Krishna. We are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Everything, we are part of his Shakti. We are the energy of the Lord. We are called Jiva Shakti, Tatashta Shakti, Jiva Shakti. We are part of the Lord. Therefore, we've always existed, as the Lord always existed too. Everything that appears is all the Shakti of the Lord, whether it's categorized as the Maya Shakti or the Jiva Shakti or the Ladini Shakti or like that. It is all the Shakti of the Lord. There's the Lord and his energy. There's nothing else. Everything is that. Therefore, the Tattvamasi, you are that. You are a part of that eternal reality. That's who we are. There's a core nature in our existence. And that manifests as we become spiritually awakened. Gopakumar, in one sense, is developing spiritually, but he's also awakened to the reality of being a Gopa, a cowherd boy of Govardhan, of Braj. So that's never going to change. He may have different duties or responsibilities, just like we may take on different responsibilities. Sometimes I was pujari, sometimes I was preacher, sometimes I would cook. I would do all the different jobs. Sometimes I was doing prison programs, sometimes I'm holding Nam Sankirtan on the street. I did all those things in the service of Prabhupada. But the core of who I am is always the same. Whatever job I may take, my eternal existence is one of being a servant to Krishna. And identified as a servant of Krishna is the beginning. Then what type of servant am I? Or what is the nature of my service in the ultimate existence? This is what Gopakumar is growing to understand. So this is like a temporary job for him. He's the Brahma. He was overwhelmed by that, being that Brahma, and wanted that. But then at a certain point, it's not satisfying if it's not really true to your nature, to the core of your existence. So even so, I was immersed in the waves of the ocean of Brahma's duties, but I was unable to enjoy the devotional service to the Lord that I had before. My mind was too disturbed by anxious concerns. There's a lot of responsibility running the universe. We know, like, it's a thankless task running a temple. There's so many responsibilities, what you got to do, how you have to manage so many people or so many obligations, so many putting on festivals, so many things that one has to do. It becomes actually a thankless task, but one feels joy in doing that. But at the same time, there may be a particular service that is relished, and one holds on to that, want to do that, really. So Gopakumar is realizing there's something lost now with all this responsibility of managing the universe. Hearing that I would die at the end of a lifespan of 2 paradas, I also was afraid. And I chanted my mantra in remembrance of Braj Bhumi. But I would derive great happiness from being pampered like a son by the Lord of the universe, and thus the mental agitation I was going through would be dispelled. Still, I had the desire to go to Braj Bhumi. I chanted my mantra, but at the same time, the Lord was treating me kindly like a loved son. There was joy in this place, Brahmalok. I felt no real mental agitation, just a desire to experience my home, my Braj, like that. So, because of being too close to the Lord and serving Him as if He were my father, I think I would commit some offenses, but He tolerated them. Sometimes I would think that I'm too close and not giving proper regards. Sometimes one can do that with a higher personality. Think I'm getting too close, and that actually is not good, because I may be committing an offense. So one has to be concerned about that, but at the same time, one doesn't want to give up the loving association of higher Vaishnavas and one's spiritual master, so one should always remain humble. That's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mood. That always remain humble. Humble like the blade of grass, Mahaprabhu said. Chaito Darpana Mardana. Humble like the blade of grass. When you're in the presence of higher Vaishnavas, in the presence of the spiritual master, like that. So there may be familial affection too that goes on. But at the same time, we can't forget in whose presence we are. So Gopakumar was feeling like this. I'm in the presence of Brahma. He's a great, great personality. Of Mahaprusha. He's a great, great personality. And even though I am Brahma, he is certainly greater than me. And I can't forget that and become too comfortable. At times I felt distress in my mind, but when the goddess Lakshmi showed me motherly affection, I would again become joyful. Thus I lived there for a long time. Still, the environment was, the Lord was like father, Lakshmi was like mother. Who could leave their loving embraces, right? Once hearing the residents of Brahmalok glorify someone who had attained liberation on earth, I asked them about that amazing event. So all of a sudden there was great joy. And what? Someone achieved liberation? Wow, everyone was joyful. I heard from those all-knowing sages about the super excellence and the rareness of moksha, or liberation. Oh, then I desired that. I then asked how I could obtain liberation. Many of the presiding goddesses of the Upanishads answered, joined by various Shrutis and Shmitis. the personifications of the Shastras. They said to me, only by knowledge is liberation achieved, and there is no other means. So it depends on our understanding of what liberation is. There is a sense that liberation is merging into the existence of the Lord. And so that sense of that kind of liberation, suyuja, merging into the Lord, is really not wanted by the Lord, but it is promoted by some. And so it is promoted through the principles of yoga and Gyan. Some of the Puranas and the Agamas said gravely that this knowledge, difficult to obtain, can be easily acquired just by devotion to the Lord. Other Shrutis and Smritis indirectly showed agreement among themselves that by devotion alone, liberation is easier to attain. In fact, whatever you desire certainly is easily obtainable through devotion. Angry at not hearing those Shrutis and Smritis speak up, some of the Upanishads and scriptures, like the Agamas, who follow in their footsteps, openly affirm that devotional service is an independent cause of liberation. In other words, sometimes here we're seeing the personified form of the Vedas in a debate. Sometimes we can read different arguments within the Veda, almost like they're debating with themselves. What is the highest? If we're not clear ourselves, we may become confused. What is the highest? So some of the Shastras were upset that there weren't others who were coming forward and saying, no, devotion is the highest. Just like we know Vyasadeva, he compiled all the Vedas. But the Bhagavatam says at the conclusion of all his writing and re-editing and so forth of the Veda in different forms, he was still not satisfied. And so he was instructed by his own spiritual master, Narada, that you have not emphasized the most important thing, and that is devotion. And one will never feel satisfied, even with the greatest of knowledge, if there's no devotion to the Lord. There has to be the proper balance. There may be knowledge, but without devotion, what is that knowledge? It's just a heavy burden. So there has to be devotion. So this idea that Gyan is enough is wrongly being presented. Yeah, Gyan can take you to the realm of impersonal liberation, but it can never take you to the realm of devotion. A few confidential Upanishads smelled and kept, along with some confidential major Agamas and Puranas, a fierce debate arose about whether or not liberation is achieved merely by chanting mantras that worship the personality of Godhead. Unable to tolerate the debate, the Puranas and the Agamas and the Upanishads, who had been silent, covered their ears and left. We don't want to hear this. Then the major Puranas and the Upanishads came forward. That pleased me very much. Discerning the inner mood of the Puranas, the Agamas, and the other scriptures who had left the debate, I pacified them with tactful praise and brought them back then into the assembly. From those scriptures, the topmost, the Srimad Bhagavatam, the others, Sattvata Siddhantas, and the other Agamas, and the foremost Shrutis, I respectfully asked about the truth of the matter, and they replied. Here it says, Shri Bhakti Shastrani Uchu, means the Bhakti Shastras then began to speak. The devotional scriptures said, O dear one, you have achieved the rare post of Brahma, and this topic is more secret than a rare treasure. But we shall explain it to you because of your abundant good qualities, and that has inspired us to speak freely. So, the highest knowledge will be now explained by the Bhakti Shastras. We'll stop at this point, pick it up at our next reading. But here now, out of curiosity, Gopakumar wanted to know how to achieve liberation. And then you have to have a definition of what actual liberation is. And then how to achieve it. There has to be clarity of the word. We say moksha, and someone may think that's in some aspects of thinking, like in the Buddhistic thinking, it means negation of the self, nirvana, giving up oneself. There is nothing. All that exists is nothing. Or one may say all that exists is everything. Brahma nirvana. Brahma nirvana meaning entering into the Brahman, who is everywhere present. But then there is other understandings of what is moksha, the ultimate liberation, or the ultimate perfection. Even we can say even above liberation is a perfection which goes beyond what we call moksha, and that is prema. Of course, the Brihat Bhagavatamrita of Sanatan Goswami will ultimately take us to that highest realm, to the abode of prema, the actual desired goal of the living being. Jai Gaura Premanandi Haribol Jai Shri Shri Radhe Shyam.